on live. Let's see if anybody shows up. Hello, anyone out there?
I wonder if I count as the one person watching.
Probably. Yeah, for 0 viewers. Yeah. Okay.
Listen, you know what? Then we just have to make sure that this is like the episode that they're all going to be really sad that they missed.
Yeah.
We should do some like crazy secrets.
Oh man, no. Start
It'll be
spilling
great.
the universe. We're gonna have to like talk about like Ryan's clown collection.
Yeah, we should. It'll be great.
Excellent. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we're assuming that eventually people will be here. So, Alex, this is your show. You do it.
Oh, am I supposed to start now?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the Private Sanctuary Podcast. I am Alexander Agunas, the Everyman Gamer, and today I'm joined with someone who's been on the show so often our past couple episodes that he might as well be my co-host, Mr.
Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram. And
we're joined with a guest, right?
Yeah, we have a guest. This is Chris Hall. He is a member of my Reign of Winter group, and I invited him in to do some painting with us. So,
I had suspected that you were one of the great, the mysterious people who are no doubt getting tortured in Artrosa. So it's good to know that for sure.
Yes, very much.
yeah, I don't think they're a fan of Atrocia. Not now. Though they're out. They're almost out.
So, all right. So we got through like the first room with the really cool two-headed Etten witch, and we loved that witch. Mm-hmm. And then it was all downhill from there.
Oh,
we all.
we have a body count in there now.
How many of you lost to Artrosa?
Just one permanently.
we had our Blood Rager died and got reincarnated as an elf. Ironically enough, that was an improvement because before being an elf, he was a human with the very old age category.
Right.
So that actually was an upgrade, believe it or not, despite the con penalty.
Okay, so he got like strength and dex back.
Yes. But the thing is that reincarnation reincarnates your body as a young adult, but doesn't change your mind. So he got to keep all of the old age bonuses and get his body reset back to youth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really good for him. He was really pleased. But then James died on the final boss, and it was the most epic death I've ever seen. So I won't spoil it since you guys haven't done it yet.
Yep. Yeah, they're right outside the door right now. Like they're literally about to kick that door open, and then that will be the encounter.
So we kicked that door open without realizing it was the boss room, and we were not prepared to fight the boss.
Oh, yeah. I kind of unfortunately warned them in advance because I needed to excuse why I was calling the session half an hour early. I was like, "Hey, listen, it's really late. We need to do this. Call this. We don't have enough time to run what's on the other side of this door." But I'm forcing them as to meta. They didn't know that, so they're not going to get to go rest and recover and everything. They got to go in that door just like they were planning on.
What? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Congratulations, Chris. You just know that now. But we can't spoil it too much because he's sitting right here. Though we lost our not our Arcanist, we lost our Occultist to the Shadow Room, if you know which one I'm talking.
I have a story about that room. That room is the best.
It is a great room.
So the reason that room is the best is because our party comp is stupid. We should not have been able to handle that room. We should have all died in Artrosa in that room. We have James is playing a multi-class Unchained Rogue Swashbuckler. I'm playing a Bard. Our one friend Casey at the time was playing his Blood Rager. We have another friend who is a Cathasa Bow Nomad. So she dual wields bows. And then the last person in our group is a shaman with the life domain and 2 levels of this crazy third-party class by Dreamscarred Press called the Vitalist.
Okay.
But the Vitalist part isn't why our shaman was stupid. The reason is that for some reason our shaman just prepares the strangest spells, like things that you would never think would ever be useful. He just prepares them. He's like, I don't care. I'm just going to change them into healing anyway. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So we go down from like the top entrance of the chrome door, and that leads right into the horrible shadow room. And so we get in there and we see all these shadows, and we win a surprise round with our initiative scores. And like our dwarf has a dex of like 8, so I have no idea how he got to go first. But for some unknown reason, he had the foresight to prepare anti-incorporeal shell that day.
Oh, wow. That has a very limited number of uses.
Yes! But so we all just cuddled and hugged our smelly mushroom dwarf, and he just sat there and stood in the middle and like channeled energy a few times, and they all died.
I'm hearing rumors that an Anthony Lee is available. Alex,
What?
can you add him to this call?
I can, but this says that he just came on right now.
Yes.
Wow. Like that is timing.
Excellent. We'll get one more person in here. I'll get a fiddle with some settings. You might see some graphical wonkiness, group. You might see some graphical wonkiness, peoples. So what is special about today's episode is that this isn't a topical episode. We wanted an excuse to just hang out and BS and paint a bunch of minis. So what you're going to, especially since on a lot of our conversations we always talk about our different techniques about painting minis. I do speed painting. Other people do really detailed work. And some people are newbies. Some of us have been doing it for decades. So we're just going to talk about how the different ways we paint minis in different circumstances, and just sort of answer questions and talk about Pathfinder and Starfinder and probably associated geeky stuff, because this is a really informal, casual hangout of an episode this time, guys. Also, if you are in our live chat right now, and I see confirmation that there are a few of you, please talk to us during this episode with your questions about Starfinder, Pathfinder, our campaigns, painting, this game room, giant robots, sci-fi stuff, Steven Universe. It don't matter. Just get in there, chat with us. We will chat back with you.
Dude, Anthony, you have like a good setup. Man, I feel like lame. You're just seeing my face.
Okay, free up. Okay, you got to turn that down. Oh, wow. Anthony's got cool stuff.
Anthony's like, stand aside. The professional is in the chat.
Okay.
So back when I first started recording the Private Sanctuary, I got a mic boom for the Snowball.
Uh-huh.
And I just, listened to Amazon's recommendations of like people who also bought a Snowball bought this microphone boom and this pop filter. And one of those two things was a good idea. Turns out the microphone boom is not actually compatible with the Snowball. But it is compatible with my webcam. So I have an over-the-shoulder view.
Nice. Ooh. And I need to
that
put
is
this
awesome.
under the frames.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's left, and that's right. Okay, great.
There we
didn't
go.
switch.
And that is you. So I need to figure out where you are. You're on the left now. Guys, so have some patience with us, audience, as we get things set up. I need to basically redo where everybody's cameras are. That's the wrong thing to grab.
I mean, but that's cool. This is the first time we've ever done an episode like this, so it's great. Isn't that right, everybody? This is super special. Indeed.
And so forth.
So it looks like you've got mostly Citadel paints, Anthony.
No. That's just... That's so good.
What?
Here's the other half.
Well, now what brand is that? Vallejo?
Vallejo, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm about 2/3 Vallejo, and I use Citadels mostly for washes, shades, and textures. Because Citadel makes paint so good that it cheats. Like, I'm not as good a painter as you think I am, only because I use a bunch of Citadel paints, and their system is pretty good at turning mediocrity into decentness.
I agree with that. I use a lot. I bought this big thing of Reaper paints because they were really cool and I wanted to try something new. It came in this awesome box. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, Reaper does make good stuff.
Yeah, so the thing I like about these paints compared to the Game Workshop stuff, because I used to use Citadel paints for a long time, the Reaper paints have these little eye drops for controlling how much paint comes out. Like, for me, that's super useful because I'm really bad at sticking brushes inside of pots. I'm awful. I didn't know that was a thing you could be bad at until I realized I was bad at it.
Yeah, Vallejo also does the dropper bottles, which I really appreciate. I'm learning to use the pots. It's not ideal.
Yeah, I don't like the pots either. I love droppers. So what I am using, I am using a whole lot of Vallejo, a lot of Vallejo paints, model colors, and I'm also using the Master Series paints from Reaper and their high density paints. So the key is this is all water acrylics, so they all will meld and work very well together. They all mix with water. I'm not using anything like enamels or any of the other lacquer based paints. So, and this is true for Vallejo, Reaper paint. This is also true for Games Workshop paint. Just about any of the stuff you buy at your hobby store is going to be water-based acrylics. And also another really great paint is the P3 paint for their War Machine and Hordes lines. But they are pots. And again, some people like pots, some people don't like pots. I like water dripples. And that's it. So some of the supplies. Let's show off our supplies.
My paintbrushes are just sort of from all over the place. You know how I'm the everyman gamer? I'm the everyman painter, too. I just pick stuff up where I can get it. This brush I got, it says Princeton. I got it at AC Moore. It's got like a big tip, and it's great. And then I got these little fancy ones at my friendly local game store. So these are like finer point brushes. I usually just, when I do my base coats, I use the really thick brushes and lab it on, and like I try to go to be accurate, but I'm not like crazy about it. I'm more into precision when I get to my layers personally.
Excellent. I'm using, so right now I'm going to be using a Model Master thin brush, this one right here, as my main work brush today, and a cheap Walmart brush that Chris brought in as my dry brush, because the dry brush is ruined and they don't need to be very good brushes anyway. So this brush has a very short lifespan ahead of it. It is about to be doing a lot of dry brush work.
Dun, dun, dun.
Some other things important to have. I've got a plastic plate for my palette. Plastic, not paper. Paper eats the paint.
I have a fancy plastic palette that's seen lots of use.
Yay!
Whoa.
Yeah, nice.
All ages show. Sorry. I just censored myself. I've taken it a step further than the plastic bit. I have a plastic dish with a bit of paper in it, and then on top of the paper I have a bit, I don't know how well you can see this on the camera because it's light bleached, but I've got a bit of, what is this called? It's not wax paper, it is
parchment paper. You made a wet palette.
Myself a tiny little wet palette, and I've found this particularly useful for metallics, because I found that my metallics tend to dry very quickly relative to my other paints, and right now I'm doing metallics and a whole bunch of Space Marines, so it's very useful. Typically I use this IMEX size 0. It's Sable, which I shouldn't be using for metallics actually, because organics are terrible with metal chips. My wife bought me a whole set of these Pro Art brushes, which are all silicone, I think. Ooh. But they hold the tip a lot better when the metallics when the little metal dust gets stuck in the bristles. So it's really nice.
All my brushes are Sables, except for the cheap Walmart one, which is plastic.
Weasel butt fur is the best fur. I call it weasel butt fur because that's where they take the hair from. It's off of the rear end of a weasel.
And we're
it's-
very
they're really
sorry
good
for our
Precious.
animal lovers in the audience. Paint and art has long since been an enemy of the small furry creature. Okay, some other more unique things I do to paint. I'm not super unique. I'm not the only one or I never invented these techniques. But some of the techniques I do use is I have my priming stick. So when you prime things, you want to get all the angles. So you want to twist things, and you don't want to get your hands dirty. So a thing I do whenever I prime is I take and this time I got a painter stick, but often I just use the same ruler, a wooden ruler that I don't care about, gets destroyed. And I wrap it in reverse with masking tape, so the sticky side's on the outside. Then I line up all my minis on the stick, so that when I'm outside priming everything, I can twist and turn and get all the angles and all the areas covered really nicely.
I prefer paint on primer, personally.
Oh, I have no patience for paint on primer, but it's really good for detail work. Especially if you're doing one mini at a time, it's a great option.
I'm really bad. I found out this last weekend, actually, that I'm really bad at judging the distance for which I should spray with a spray bottle.
Uh-huh.
And I completely clogged up, like, 4 of my new Hero Forge minis and had to let them sit. And had to let them sit in Simple Green and strip them, basically, right after I got them. So, I bought this new primer from my friendly local game store, and it looks like it's an off-brand, so I don't think I'll use it again because I've never had this problem with Citadel primer.
Well, what's the primer brand?
I'll show you.
I am using the Army Painter brand primers. Actually, today I used Citadel Black, actually.
This is what caused my problem. It's called Armory White Paint. It's got Dork Tower characters all over it, which is a shame. I think Dork Tower is funny. This paint was a pain in my bottom, though.
And
I too use paint on primers. I have 2, and these are they.
Ooh. Now, what
They're
brand are
Vallejo.
those? Okay.
They are Vallejo, and they're a little bit expensive. They're at least around here, they're about $15 a bottle.
Okay.
That's expensive.
But they also last forever. This is my first, and I bought this about 8 months ago on the white, and this is my second, and I bought it about 6 months ago. The bottle before that lasted almost a year. And these are, I would say, 6 or 7 rattle can primers worth of stuff.
Whoa.
And the reason that's the case is because I make it stretch with this. This is a Badger airbrush.
Oh, so jealous.
Straight through. So I can prime in all sorts of weather. I live in New England, so it gets really, really cold. And you shouldn't prime when it's below like 50 degrees, because otherwise your primer doesn't stick well to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go through long dry spells of not being able to paint because I didn't have anything primed, and I didn't want to paint on primer or anything. So that's my solution. I can feed it through the airbrush, and I get this nice even coat. I can control the nozzle, the flow rate.
So you're cheating because you're spraying on primer, just like I am, but you're just not using an aerosol can. You're using a really fancy airbrush, which I really want, especially as I've started to not just do my gaming minis. I've started to get into Gunpla, and James from the network has helped me go down that dark path very well.
Yes, yes.
Actually, I've got a box over here filled with that brown box is filled with all my Gunpla stuff. And for Gunpla, I have to use even better primers. So I'm using like Tamiya high grade primers because I don't want any clogging, any sign of clumping at all on something that needs to be a mirror. Like freaking Gundam models like a foot tall, and you want a smooth mirror surface across the entire panel, so you don't want that happening. And that would also apply for like if you were doing like Warhammer stuff and you were doing like vehicles or like some really big Space Marines that looks like Anthony's painting some Space Marines today.
Yep, these are actually the new dudes out of the Dark Imperium box.
See,
I got some ahead of the release so that I could paint it up for the store release.
And Chris, you're joining us. What are you going to be painting today?
Well, I just have some I'm going to have to take those off because I can't stand to hear the echo. I've just got some HD miniatures. Let me pass these over.
Yeah, okay, so we were talking about these on the show last week. These are the WizKids unpainted HD miniature line. I can't see if we can get this zoomed in on the store. This is Valeros. You got Valeros here. Yeah, these come pre-primed. This detail on these are extremely high detail, and the price is super cheap, so we've been really happy. They've come in both a Pathfinder line and a D&D line. You'll find them on the same shelf, usually in your hobby shop. And here's another. Yeah, this is another Valeros.
So I'm going to be super negative. I feel like the Dungeons and Dragons selection for that line is way better than the Pathfinder selection.
You're right. Yes. But because the Pathfinder stuff they're only using that license to get like the stuff that's very specifically Pathfinder that they can't do.
Well, it's not even just that. They're making the Iconics like again. This is like the third miniature variant type for the Iconics. I'm a little iconic out when it comes to 3D miniatures personally.
Yeah, well, it's why they keep making Rise of the Runelord stuff. What sells well sells well. But you're right. I've got enough Iconics. I do buy more the D&D line of that side than I do because I don't need more goblins, because there's a whole goblin set they made that was super cheap, and now I have all the goblins I could ever want.
Right. You know what I would like? I'd like for them to just go through the core rulebook line and just like take all the character art that isn't the Iconics and just make cool minis out of those. And then when they do all the core rulebooks, go do the campaign setting guides too.
Okay, so we've got a couple of people in chat. Bard Wannabe says he won't be able to paint with us since he's working, but he appreciates the company. We appreciate the company too, Bard. Please chime in with questions, chat, and keep us talking. Lucius says that he's going to start painting with us in a few minutes, but he's on a conference call. Well, when you get started to painting, let us know what you're working on. All right.
And show us pictures.
Pictures! Actually, you can't show us pictures. I wish you could. In the comments when we launch this show, you can show us pictures. But during the live chat, it blocks links because spammers have been very spammy to us, and I'm not Twitch proficient. All right. So the other thing I'm doing today, besides, of course, I've got my cup of water, I've got my plate, my napkins instead of paper towels. But one thing have been doing to paint lately is I've used these wooden knobs, which are actually wooden candle holders that you can get at any hobby store. They come in like a 5-pack for $1 or $2. And then I got a little bit of blue tack on the knob, the end of the knob. And what I do is I take a mini. So in honor of Starfinder coming out soon, I've got a couple of sci-fi minis from the Reaper's Bone set. And then I tack that on with the blue tack so that I can paint my mini without handling my mini at all.
Whoa.
I have him.
That's cool.
Hands-free proficiency.
I also have... and something else I'll be working on. These are not going to be 15-minute minis because these are some of my Hero Forge minis for my main characters of one of my campaigns. Here is actually Perram's mini.
Hey, I'm doing Hero Forge minis too.
And those cost too much for me to put a bad paint job on. He's got a base coat on because I actually put his base coat on a little while ago. And so I'm going to be doing the highlight layer next on him. As well as another member of the party. He needs a hair base coat and some more stuff. Okay, I need to adjust the white balance on this camera because you guys can't see it very well. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be working on. Another thing I do is I talk about my 15-minute minis. I do a lot of very fast speed painting because, well, I need minis on the table. And for most of the part, I don't need a lot of super, super fine detail on minis that I'm working on the table. So I do 15-minute speed paints. So get the base coat on there, get the highlights on there with dry brush ink, get some dry brush on there, put some inks on there, and get it out the door. So I'm going to do a couple of these as 15-minute paint jobs. Because I'm going to be talking to the audience, that's going to slow me down. So these are likely going to be half-hour paint jobs. But I'll show you the speed techniques I do. And Alex and Anthony, please chime in with like the different techniques you're doing and how you're doing the painting. For our audio only listeners, this video will be posted to our YouTube channel. Please go there to check this out to see some visuals of what we were talking about. But in respect for our audio listeners, please give as much visual description as we work here.
It looks like Bard Wannabe asked you prime your bones.
I absolutely do prime my bones. These are all bones, and they all just got a set of a nice Citadel Black primer coat on them. I've had very mixed results painting unprimed bones. If I wash them in soap and water well beforehand, then I can usually do that fine. I'm usually too lazy to get that done because that adds about a half an hour to my painting time. And usually that's not necessary. So I just go ahead and prime these suckers. And when I prime them, they're easier to see the details on the minis once they're primed. And I know for a fact that the paint will stick and stay stuck and won't bubble up. I've had a problem with the paint putting like air bubbles on stuff if I don't prime my bones. But I've heard people get away with it.
Yeah, I have a couple bones that I didn't prime, and some of them look good, and other ones don't. You know, it is what it is. It just depends on, I guess, the bone, and like you said, whether or not you clean it good. The ones that don't look good, I gave to my brother to paint, and he didn't wash them. So, like, they look okay, but also it might just be that my brother isn't always the best judge of what colors go well together.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Anthony. What techniques are you using when you're painting?
Well, at the moment, all I'm doing is base coating. So, for those who might be unfamiliar, base coating is just the step where you put it's the first layer of paint. It is the base coat. You typically use the most opaque paints that you have to establish a decent undercoat for the rest of your sort of highlights and your washes to go onto. So the predominant color for these dudes they're blue, and then I have metallic lining for the rest of it. After this will be washing, which is a thin paint that tends to sink into the recesses and bring out shadows. And then after that is highlights. So all I'm really doing is just hitting all of the things that are. It's basically painting by numbers at this point. If you're familiar with like coloring by numbers, it's these paint the things that are blue, paint the things that are gold, paint the things that are silver. Great, you did that, and then worry about the actual details later. So at this step, you can actually afford to be a little bit messy because when it comes to finishing the model later, you can clean that up. If you paint with thin enough paint, you can just paint over any mistakes that you make. Although, of course, you do want to be as neat as you can.
Okay. Chris.
Yes.
Over there, next to Cthulhu, you're going to see a pin stuck inside the gold box.
Yes.
I need that pin. When you're using dropper paints, occasionally you have to unclog the droppers. A nice little push pin with a ball head so that it won't go all the way through the paint comes in super handy in these situations.
Indeed.
Also, I'm not wearing. Usually, I dress up a little bit better for the show, guys, with a Pathfinder shirt and nice, clean clothes and stuff. These are my paint clothes. These things you're going to get. If you're painting like you should be painting, you're going to get a little bit dirty. Your paint's going to get on your clothes. There's nothing you can really do about that, and it's best to just not fret it.
Casual Perram.
Super casual Perram. I'm gonna have my camera pointed mostly at my workstation while I'm working. I'm gonna start off painting. Oopsie, I need to get that. I'm gonna be painting off. I'm gonna start off painting one of the sci-fi minis, and so I'm gonna paint their armor panels gray. Now, one of the reasons that one thing I want to say is I primed all my minis black. When I'm speed painting, black makes things faster because when you prime white, you need to pay attention to details and the edges of your color schemes. And white prime minis look fantastic with bright colors on them. These two here were white primed minis, the Hero Forged ones. So the paints come off really bright, and I had to be very careful in making my lines clean and stuff. I'm not going to be very careful at all when it comes to painting these speed paint minis. So black hides mistakes better than white does.
I learned that the hard way recently. I had a commission job that I had to finish, and it was a heck of a time doing it because white's a really, really hard color to mask with certain other colors. I don't know how well this will be in focus, but here's the guy.
Man, that's a nice mini.
It's typical of sort of GW ostentation. It's, sort of fragile and ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun to paint. It just was unexpectedly challenging because I needed to paint it white to get all of the bright greens out, and that was not something I was used to. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I'm mixing my paint right now with half and half water paint. That's my ratio that I'm working with right now, which means I should probably be doing 2 coats with this. Sometimes when I'm being extra lazy, I don't thin my paints at all, and that's a horrible mistake, but keep in mind I'm doing really quick and dirty speed paints. I'm not entering these in any contests.
I am taking paint and applying it liberally to a brush and putting it on my miniature.
Okay. Now here is important for my paint technique. Something I learned very early on, and all miniature painters should do, is take your mini that you're going to paint in one hand, then take your other hand and slap it against that hand with one, like a claw grip. This way, any movements and involuntary movements of your hands takes both hands with it, and you can get a lot steadier job just by having your pinky touching the base of the mini, the base of your knob, the base of your hands. Just keep your hands touching each other and brace that way so that you can get nice, smooth lines. Okay, so I'm starting to put some paint on now.
I learned that technique as steady hand mode.
Steady hand mode activate.
It's true. So, what would you gentlemen say is your worst habit while painting? That thing that you know is probably bad, or probably a shortcut, but you do it anyways.
I don't prepare my models.
As in cleaning flash off of them?
Yeah, I don't clean my flash. I don't wash my models. If it's something I super, super care about, I'll take that time. I sure as heck did it with that Gundam model. But normally I don't prime. I just put a primer coat straight on an unfinished model. I'll clean up if it's egregious, if it's something absolutely terrible, I'll clean that up. But not if it's just a little bit of flashing. Here on the tip of his gun is a little bit of flashing visible. I ain't gonna do anything about that.
What do I do that's terrible? I don't know. I think I'm all around just not a very great painter. Mm-hmm. I think I just fool people. So, whatever.
I eat my brushes.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
We've lost somebody. Who'd we lose?
Me.
You again? Chris!
I don't know.
He's gone.
I have to wait till we really lose you.
Eating brushes is slang for sticking a brush in your mouth and using the saliva to put a tip on your brush. It's a habit I developed fairly early on, and I know it's probably bad, but I still can't stop doing it. I can't argue with the results either, though.
I mean, it puts a good tip on your brush, but man.
And it thins your paints really well, because saliva are really good at that.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to do a sin here that I never do on the show. I'm going to have to take my hat off.
It's okay. None of them will see it.
Yeah, your head is just out of the frame.
I'll
They
put
can
my hat
pretend that
on
the hat is
anytime
so.
I tilt my hat back in frame, because the brim of the hat is cutting off some light that I need to see to paint.
I really wish I could show you my light setup. I'm
And
not sure if that can. Let me try and do it. I'll have to dim my lights so that it's a little bit easier to see, and I don't bleach everything. But the lamp on my left is a Tao light, and there it is. It's this overhead, sort of L-shaped light that has a bunch of different filters. So I can set like super daylight and stuff, and it extends. You can see about halfway across my desk. Then the lamp on my right is also a Tao lamp, with the same settings and features and whole whatnot. So I have a 180 degree arc of light above my desk, so there's no shadows. Because boy, is that super annoying when you're trying to paint.
Yeah, I'm noticing it right now that my camera setup where I put this is a really bad. I really should be painting somewhere else, guys. I can't hardly see.
Where do you usually paint?
I usually paint in my kitchen. Or I go down to the
Overhead
game
light.
store in the game room and they got bright fluorescents.
That does make sense.
I usually paint here. I have a fan like right above my back shoulder, so the light pours down, and I just kind of tilt my desk like this, and I'm not in front of it, like it's more in front of me. Oh man, look at that! My room is accidentally optimized.
Woohoo!
Painting is like my zen space.
Oh.
And so I
gosh.
did everything that I could to make sure that this is a comfortable and peaceful experience for me, which means eliminating all of the annoyances and little nuances that make painting horrible.
He eliminates all distractions.
No, not distractions. Mostly the things that I hate about, like, you're trying to get this niggling little detail and there's this shadow that you can't see. Or it looks like the painting job that you did was a really good job, and then you see it in like daylight or a different lighting, and you're realizing that the tone that you chose was too dark. That's super annoying.
We have some comments from Jacob Blackman in chat. First, he says, as a note, a mini does not need to look like it's going into a competition to be good at your tabletop. Often, just a good base coat will be sufficient. I personally am weird and like to try to have details and like the really nice, like I don't go in trying to think that it's like a crazy professional paint job, but I want to go in and put my mini on the table and have like the other people go, ooh, ah, like all those people who are using like pre-painted miniatures or like pawns or whatever. Like I respect you. I want to impress you though. He also says that his worst habit for painting is keeping a glass of water too close to the paint water and drinking the paint water. I openly
See, that's why I use jars. There's no mistaking those for drinkable things.
Nice. And then he also says, that's to me. I like details, but when painting tons of goblins and skeletons, you don't need them to be super detailed. So, dirty secret for me, if you've ever sat at a table with me, I'm super lazy and would rather you imagine what the skeletons look like than actually have the skeletons on the table. I take blank bases, like from the Reaper Bones, and I put them down on the table, and then I take a die number and I stick the number on it. And I'm like, all right, this is bad guy number 1, bad guy number 2. Bad guy number 1 is a goblin. Bad guy number 2 is this. And it's not something I like doing at home for home games if I can help it. But at PFS, where time is of the issue and you just want your players to know the information quickly, I find that it's a lot more easier to give them numbers and positions rather than like actual minis. But that's just my preference and observations.
What I do is I have a multi-compartment little plastic tote I take with me to PFS games, and I put I take a whole encounter of pre-painted minis because, good lord, and like I do bring my custom painted minis if I have some, but usually it's pre-painted, and I just go ahead and slap those in the compartments with the other things in that encounter.
Yep.
I haven't come up. I haven't come up with a system for storage that lets me pull out things fast enough that it's worth my time, in my opinion. Like,
Oh, well, the first thing I do is I line my encounters up behind my GM screen in order when I sit down.
oh no, I mean like actually storing them when I'm not playing.
Oh,
Like, it takes me too long to sort through all my Pathfinder pawns.
okay. Oh, I should show you guys how I store my minis after this because I'm in the game room.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Red
mind seeing
Century
that.
podcast. Painting and storage solutions.
Mini storage is a big problem.
It's your third army.
Oh man, when you get to like I've got thousands of D&D minis now. I think it was 11,000 pre-painted plastic minis I had during the last time I counted.
Oh my gosh.
And-
11,000?
Yeah, no joke.
Perram. I thought I had a lot.
I was for a long time there when like the D&D battles minis was coming out or the D&D miniatures were coming out. I would just like I just told my game store I'll take 2 cases.
I did that, not 2 cases, but I got a case of each of the Pathfinder. Were they Pathfinder battles?
Yeah, Pathfinder battles.
Yeah, so I got a case of each for the first 4, I think. What was the up through Shattered Star is what I
Yeah,
got.
that's exactly where I stopped after Shattered Star.
And I think they did the price hike then, and then I realized I look at the minis and I'm like, I have too much. I have way too much. And you know, at the time they were excellent, and we used the heck out of that collection. But right now, I find that I enjoy building and painting miniatures so much that the pre-paints just don't do it for me. So they're just gathering dust, and I really wish I could. I wish I could find them a new home, but I don't know what to do with them.
For me, minis used to be a really easy way for me to support my friendly local game store, where I'd be like, oh, I want to make sure that you get a sale out of me, but I subscribe to all the books. What can I buy from you? Oh, I'll buy Pathfinder Battles miniatures. Like, it was easy. However, right around when I think it was Legends of Golarion came out, and I really wasn't crazy about the sculpts for that one and the paint jobs. I think that was like the one that I was like, the quality on this one isn't that great. And then that was about when I started running out of space to put my miniatures, and the pawns came out, and I was like, oh, this doesn't take up as much space. This is pretty great.
I think I found a solution to my lighting problem.
What's that?
I turned my cell phone light on. I don't know how long that'll last on my battery, but hey, we'll find out.
Hey, guys. On a scale of 1 being no and 10 being oh my gosh, how surprised are you to know that I'm painting a kitsune?
I am at a -7. Now, which kitsune is this? Is this your kitsune wizard?
No, I finished that one. This one is my bard in Reign of Winter. So what ended up happening is Hero Forge came up with their cool digigrade thing, and I've literally, like, I have a post from like right around Gen Con. I've literally been waiting for 2 years for them to do digigrade legs on their Hero Forge minis.
Oh yeah, it was a big annoying thing. You couldn't make hardly any anthro characters out of their stuff.
I mean, I only care about Kitsune, but that's true. Although I did go through and I made a passable Ratfolk for my Ratfolk Arcanist that I want to do in PFS. But so anyway, I got a whole bunch of these, and I was talking with James because James is in my Reign of Winter group, and I was like, oh, look at this Zenzo mini I built for my bard, and it looks like this. And he was like, well, that's really cool, but, and I'm like, for me at least, I've always pictured him as being a Kitsune, and that's just, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it like this. But he's like, well, you've gone through books 1 through 4 without ever leaving your human identity. So I have always just pictured your character as a human. And I was like, well, that's a really good point. I go through a lot of adventures as human because it's just more convenient. People don't ask questions. So what am I going to do? Well, I went and I made a human mini and a Kitsune form mini and spent like 2 hours making sure the measurements on both were exactly the same. Yeah, it was a little overkill, but I'm pretty pleased. So the hope is that the next time we play Rain of Winter, whenever I switch forms, I'll also switch minis.
Nice. That's a detail I wouldn't have done.
It's one of the little things you can do that I think is really fun about the race. Like, if I ever got a Skinwalker and I like the character enough, I would want to do it for a Skinwalker too. Where, like, you have your ordinary mini and then your, like, really scary bestial mini.
Okay, so I primed this guy black, and then I put a gray coat on his armor panels, but that's not going to be a very visually interesting mini, so what I'm doing right now is I'm picking out individual armor panels and putting a bright red on them, because I figured that these guys are probably going to be used as like a mercenary group that I'm going to throw at my Starfinder players. So I figured that they would have like little ornamentations to make them look a little bit more gruff.
Oh man, I love how the Hero Forge smirk came out on this character. It's great. Oh, it's wonderful. I'm so happy. He's got this silly smirk. I'm gonna have to try to make sure it's cleaned up in the final version and you can see it well.
Oh, speaking of Starfinder, when we were starting to get some news as like, you know, how close we were actually to Starfinder being coming out and like realizing Gen Con was up, and I realized that, you know, not just personally but for the show I should probably be running a Starfinder campaign. Okay, I screwed up here and I got some paint, red paint where I don't want it. What I'm going to do there is just go over it with the gray paint again, and I'm just going to ignore that. But so I asked the group at the time, I said, hey, when Starfinder comes out, do we want to keep playing our Reign of Winter campaign, or do you maybe want to switch over to Starfinder group? And they really want to play the Reign of Winter. I'm probably going to have to convince them otherwise soon. But that was the session before we started doing the... that was the session that the Shadow Room happened, because they walked straight into their next. And about halfway through it, they were like, man, you really want this Starfinder campaign, don't you?
I mean, I'm sorry, guys. That room is just terrible.
It is.
And, like, there are places throughout the adventure that are worse than that, but nowhere is there so much collective bad than that dungeon.
Mm-mm. Like, the rest of the whole AP is going to be a cakewalk for them after this, and I hate that for them, but... Yeah, Atrocious just nuts.
So, there's, like, one fight in Frozen Stars that's really nasty. Our GM actually modified it because it's so she said it's the only fight out of any of the 4 books she's actually nerfed for our party, and you fight these two horribly strong monsters.
Hold up. One of my players is actively listening to this conversation.
That's okay. He should know that terror is coming. The worst thing ever is coming. It's true. Perram is looking at his player, Chris, and he's like, I might need to knock you unconscious because Alex can't stop talking.
It's okay. He gets himself knocked unconscious enough. He plays a Blood Rager. He has no AC. His defense is hit points.
Sounds like he needs more hit points.
Oh man, I had a Blood Rager in PFS who just retired. I got to level 12 killing Kroon. It was the best. Mm-hmm. But I also had a low AC. With my armor, when I was raging, I would drop to like a 19 or a 20 at level 12. But it didn't matter because I had hit points, and I have the Arcane Bloodline power where every time I rage, I get displacement. And then once I got to 11th level, I just started mirror imaging myself every time my Blood Rage too.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, it was great.
Oh, the red.
It was...
Huh?
The red.
There you go, red, Chris.
Thank you.
I feel like that's just, I don't know, percentage chance to miss on top of, or instead of AC is just, it's so good.
Yeah, but but it really sucks when they roll that hit.
It's true.
Oh, it's also really, really shitty. it's also really, really not good when you. It's also really, really not good when you fight somebody who has true seeing.
True sight. Yep.
Yeah, because they see right through it.
They do. And then it becomes me and a mad dash trying to take them down. Like, the worst thing they can do is make it very clear that they don't care about my illusions, because that puts a big target on their head. And James has affectionately named my Blood Rager's sword the car door, because I have the Blood Rage power from I'm cross-blooded arcane abyssal. So when I Blood Rage, in addition to getting the free displacement effect, I also get a free enlarged person effect from my demonic stuff. And so I'm enlarged, and I use a greatsword, and that greatsword is an impact weapon, so it counts as being a huge weapon. And so every time I attack, it's 4d6 plus 27, I think, is my number. That sounds about right.
All right, Jacob Blackman says, let's see, where we need to see. His painting rates are cheap. He's done dragons for $25. That is cheap, Jacob.
Stop undercutting the market. I need to eat.
Okay, Bard1B says, I just got my 3rd bone set, so any suggestions for storage are welcome. Okay, I'll get into that right here soon. I need to let this guy dry a little bit before his next coat goes on anyway. All right.
Battle foam's really good.
Battle foam's expensive.
It's true, but it's really good.
It is really good. It's really great, and it's expensive.
It depends on the size of your collection.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little surprised that Mr. Oh, no, wait, no. Anthony was the one with the stupid expensive airbrush, so I'm not surprised that Perram is arguing price. I'd be surprised if Anthony was arguing price.
Excuse you, my airbrush was $10, thank you very much.
Oh.
I got it on eBay.
Oh my gosh, man. Alright, so moving the paint.
My compressor was $230.
Oh, that number, there's the number. Oh. Critical hit.
Goodness.
Anthony does max damage. Alex dies of poverty.
Well, you could always just use an aerosol attachment instead of the compressor.
It's true. The problem with that is that as you use the aerosol, you lose pressure.
Yeah. Okay,
and so over time you'll have an uneven coat.
Okay, so I'm taking the camera and I'm pointing it over to my mini storage. Okay, so what you're seeing there. Okay, so what you guys are seeing right now are these are 2-tier card boxes. They're called the shoe boxes. Those are meant to store like massive amounts of baseball cards, like these BCWs. You can get these at your friendly local gaming store for stupid cheap, and you can order them in mass online and all that jazz. So, okay, inside.
Were we supposed to see something? I only saw your camera light thing.
He's look on the Twitch stream.
Yep. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. This looks like it's mirrored. So oops. Okay. So each of them, I have a label on the front with what's in it. So this case it's giants. You're seeing this backwards, Twitch. I'm sorry. And inside each of them is all the giants I have. Now, why this works is because it's a nice, huge compartments that are easy to sort through. I can very easily know, okay, here's a storm giant, there's a stone giant, there's another stone giant. It takes me like a second to flip through this to find what I need, as long as I know that this is the giants box. Now, giants, I probably should have picked a different one, because giants are so big, I didn't put any dividers in here. There's just the natural 2 dividers. But let's say for something I need a little bit more. Okay, here, aberrations. Aberrations box. I put these little divider compartments in it. So, and I do my own little division heads. Like, these are humanoid aberrations. These are medium aberrations. These are some of the larger, more traditional dungeon monsters. And here's things with tentacles. All of my major monster groups are stored like that. I've got one for giants, aberrations, monstrous humanoids, magical beasts, elementals and fae, dragons, demons and devils, ogres and lessers. And the only time that changes up is if I have, for like the humanoids and stuff, I use these little tackle boxes that have even tiny little storage compartments, and I store them in compartments in here. So this is my dwarf box. It's got all kinds of dwarves. So I got dwarf fighters up here. These are weird dwarves, like my dwarf samurai, dwarf monk. Those are there. This is my Iconics dwarves. These are my Cleric dwarves. These are my Barbarian dwarves. Here's my Muradin, because everybody needs a Muradin. And that's how I divide these up. And that's how I store my minis. This only works for pre-painted plastic, and it works for bones minis because they're also plastic and soft plastic. So all you have to do is you paint your bones like I'm doing here today. And you put on a good finish coat. So like a good, you can either put a matte or a gloss finish coat on these things. And that finish coat, let me put my light back. I need my light back. Light. Okay, that's not working. Come on, light. Play nice. Okay.
Theoretically, you can use even on your really nice painted minis. If you put a nice protective coat on it, you can bang them up pretty good.
Yeah, I find that doesn't work on metals because the metal, doesn't work on. It works on plastic and resins really well as long as you put a good protective coat. And the soft plastic Reapers, I have yet to have those chip up after doing it. I've tossed those in with these pre-painted plastics; they work just fine. And that just is fine. There's no problems at all doing it that way. Okay, so I've got this guy here. He's got his accent color. He's got his main color. I need to paint that gun. So I need to figure out what color I'm going to paint that gun. It's a. I like that it's black. So I think I'm just going to take some silver, and that's green. That's not silver. That's not silver. That's not silver. Horn steel. Here you go. This will work. So I'm just going to pick out some parts of that gun with some horn steel here, and leave the rest of it black, and that'll be a good accent color. I don't thin my metals. Do you thin your metals, Anthony?
Thinning metals is really tough because metal paints are acrylic paints with a bit of colored acrylic and actual metal chips. And if you thin them too much, it throws off the chemistry balance of the paint, and it starts to separate in really undesirable ways. So it's tough to thin your metals in a way that makes them still usable. There's a little bit of trial and error involved. I sometimes thin. Usually, just using the wet palette is perfectly fine for me because the paint stays wet and it stays usable. I find that I don't have to thin my metals if I use a wet palette.
Now, I love using a wet palette. I just was really lazy today. I haven't actually, the GW wet palette they sell officially. I got that given to me. But oftentimes what I do for a wet palette, even when I don't have parchment paper, is just take a paper towel and soak it on a plastic plate and then wait till most of the moisture's gone from it. It'll serve you as a one-use wet palette for a little while.
Mm-hmm. The neat thing about wet palettes is if this is just a plastic dish, but if I were to use, say, a Tupperware container or something, I could seal that Tupperware container if I was sort of done painting for the night, I could seal it and then come back the next day and open it, and the paints would be just fine.
Yeah, and the GW one does that, and that's so great, but. Oh man, but they're expensive. The official wet palettes are like $20, and then the parchment paper that's pre-cut for them, which you shouldn't use. You should just get your own parchment paper.
Yeah, parchment paper is like a couple of bucks at your home, your local supermarket or convenience store or whatever, and it'll last you months and months and months.
All right. Okay. All right. So now at this point, it's time to put the highlight on the mini. Okay, and so for this I'm going to take my gray again, and I'm going to make it brighter. And there's a couple of ways you can make paint brighter. There's the wrong way and there's the right way. The wrong way is to mix it with white. because mixing your paint with white, it kind of throws off the balance of the paint pigment. It kind of dulls it, desaturates everything as well. You do get it lighter, and for some paint colors that'll work just fine. But for a more interesting, using a lighter color is usually great, because for gray I find that using really light blues give me a great look. So I put 2 drops of gray on my palette. I'm going to put 2 drops of this sky blue on my palette. I'm going to thin that with 1 drop of water. My dropper of water is bigger dropper than my paint water, so every drop of this is 2 drops of paint. Mix that all up. And then I'm going to use this with my dry brush, and I'm going to put a nice dry brush coat of this bright gray. Okay, it looks like it didn't brighten up enough, so I'm going to put some more of the sky blue in there. I'm probably going to have to put a lot of the sky blue in there. Okay, 4 drops of sky blue added to the mix. Something's wrong with my sky blue.
Is it shaken well enough?
No.
So sometimes when, and this is for the benefit of the audio listeners, sometimes when your paint has been sitting long enough, either on the shelf or on your hobby desk or whatever happens, the paint can sometimes start to settle because the pigment will just sort of drop to the bottom. So just give it a good shake, and that'll typically resolve it.
There we go. That's the color I was looking for. It's sort of this cloudy white gray. Okay, so here, I'm going to show it to my paint. So this nice white gray, I probably got it too white now. So I'm going to pull in some of this gray I used before from the other color palette. There we go. Okay. And I got it on this big, thick brush, which soaked up way too much paint. And now, because I'm dry brushing, I'm going to rub my paint against my towel until I get almost all the paint off of it. Okay. Alright, and now I'm just going to very lightly flick it very furiously over my mini. Okay, needs to be drier.
Dry brushing for me was one of those techniques that took me a little while to get comfortable with, but has saved me so much time in the long run. It's pretty amazing.
Drier.
I concur. Dry brushing is awesome.
Let's see. Going to chat for a moment. Looks like Yasumoto is audio only for now. Well, I hope you can get a video at some point. That would be great. See, Lucas VCNE has started to paint a Heldorado Monkey King. Oh, I've seen that mini. That mini's amazing. The sculpt is really, really good for that one. Yeah, he's going to get it painted and brought to Gen Con. That's pretty neat.
So wait, Lucas, does that mini look like a Venara, like a monkey person, or is it like a guy with monkey traits, like classic depictions of the Monkey King?
It's the latter.
Okay. I've been trying to find a good model, or even just a base model for my Venara Gunslinger, and it's been really, really challenging. Like, to the point where Hero Forge doesn't have monkey bits, so I couldn't make something on my own. And even just ordinary monkeys are hard to find. Like, the level of conversion I'm willing to do is quite impressive, and I have found no good bases.
Hey Chris, you've been
Yes.
quiet. Let's see what you've been up to.
I'm trying to salvage this thing.
It's not a salvage. What's this, a gnome?
It is.
A
Oh,
gnome.
no, it's a halfling.
A halfling with bright pink hair. Blue, lots of blue.
Listen,
Nice.
clearly she just wants Gnome Senpai to notice her.
It's a work in progress.
Now, I'm surprised to look at how the paint is glistening here.
That's because I've used way too much of it.
Oh, okay.
Wait, Reaper has a gun monkey? Is it like an actual monkey, or is it like an ape? Like, because if it's like a gorilla, that's not what I want. It's got to have the little curly tail and stuff. Like, it's got to be simian, not whatever gorillas are. Gorillas might be simians too. I don't know anything about monkeys.
All right. Ugh. You need to pick out some bronze pieces on this guy, or else he's going to look too monochrome.
Reaper has a
Oh!
gorilla with a chain gun or some sort of Gatling cannon on its arm.
Does it have like a curly tail, like a
No,
monkey,
it's
or
a gorilla. It's like a large-sized gorilla. Yeah, it's a
That's
really
not-
nice miniature. It's just not what you're looking for.
It's just not of an Aran, yeah.
Right.
That's what I've been running into. There are a lot of really nice miniatures that just are not what I'm looking for. Like, I found one mini that would have been perfect, and it was like a 3D render of the mini. So I spent like 10 minutes trying to hunt this mini down, and I found out it was a 3D mini from a Kickstarter that funded but never actually like delivered on anything.
That's
Oh,
true.
that's horrible.
Yeah. Some sculptor took the time to sculpt this very nice monkey mini, possibly the only monkey mini out there that's like a humanoid, like PC race monkey, but it will never come out and see the light of day.
So I feel like I was first introduced to this as the quote unquote bear problem, and I'm starting to realize that this is sort of just like the animal problem, which is to say that bear miniatures. So this is the way I was introduced to it. Bear miniatures tend to come in two forms. The super docile, like this is a bear in a stream. He just caught a trout.
Yeah.
Like pose. Like, you know, I'm just a bear in my natural habitat because that's, you know, what bears do. Or it's a dire bear that's enormous and frothingly angry and has like bits of rock coming out of its shoulders or like armored plating. Just this redonkulous, like enormous fantasy version of a really angry bear. And that's cool too, but there's nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the same with a lot of sort of real world animals, that it's either one or the other and nothing really in the middle for you know shape shifting or anthropomorphic PCs.
So apparently one of our listeners has a Venera model that I really, really, really like, so I'm trying to ask Lucas where I can get this miniature. That's the Haldorado one? Oh, is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah.
Oh no, that mini is really nice. Oh, I have to see if I can find that and track that down. Like it needs a swirly tail for my monkey, but that's easy to make. I can make
you can green stuff that.
I can make a swirly tail. I can't sculpt monkey feet. Like that's my problem.
Let's see.
All right, I'll investigate it, Lucas, afterwards. Thank you very much. You might have solved my gun monkey problem.
Yasumoto has asked, has anyone done the paint and take at Gen Con or similar convention?
I have. That is something you should always do.
Always.
Yes.
I feel like Jacob Blackman did it at PaizoCon this year, but I could be wrong. I vaguely remember seeing a photo. Did you do it this year, Jacob?
I recommend it as sort of a way to break up your convention schedule, like especially at Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on and you want to get the most out of it, but sometimes you just have to remind yourself to take a break. And for me, spending half an hour, 45 minutes at the paint and take, it's free. You know, you can donate, I believe, if you want, but it's free. You can just sort of sign up and wait your turn for a station to open and just sit down and hang out with other people who are excited to paint. And it's this island of calm in this sea of bustling activity, and you can sort of just take a breather, slap some paint on the mini, and just recharge.
I remember last year at Gen Con, it was like in the mall, wasn't it?
No, it was on the way to the mall. That last upstairs, right before you got to the mall exit in the parking lot.
Really?
Oh, okay.
They moved it then. Because when admittedly, I haven't been to Gen Con since 2015? No.
Yeah, you were there for my first Gen Con.
Yeah, so when was that? 2016?
No, that was 2015.
Okay, that was 2015. All right, yeah. So
Yeah,
they
'cause
had
that's-
it.
That's
it was
when we
outside
went to
of-
the awesome party.
Very nice.
the party that we sort of just wandered into, and then
Oh, it was
decided
great.
to stay.
Listen, they didn't care. They let us stay.
Yeah, I mean, that was Were Cabbages, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like Were Cabbages and Company. Yeah.
Yeah. It was great.
This guy's done.
Oh,
Yikes, Perram.
He is lots of gray, red, and gold for a nice little mercenary sci-fi miniature for a Starfinder game. He probably could use a wash, but I'm not going to bother with it. Yeah, he's done.
So what I'm doing at the moment is called assembly line painting.
Ooh.
It's where I spend just enough time on a miniature to do a single particular detail, and then I move on. And then by the time I go back to him, he's dry. And I am currently working my way through like 23 miniatures this way.
Assembly line is great for army models, like if you've got a bunch of troops, because by the time you've done like the third or fourth painting of that particular bracer, you're really good at painting that bracer.
it's pretty good.
And then next up is I'm gonna paint this lizard man spear dude, because who doesn't want lizards and spears?
I just got the bases for both of my human form and my kitsune form miniatures done. So now I'm going to start trying to work on the first not base coat.
Okay, so I'm going to start with intermediate green, but because I know this is going to be too green, I'm going to be mixing it with leather brown. Intermediate green and leather brown.
I am pulling out one of my Games Workshop paints because there's no reason to use metal paint from anyone but Citadel. The Citadel metal paint is amazing, just like Anthony said earlier.
It's true. For whatever reason, Citadel metals flow better than any other metal from any other company that I've tried. I've heard that P3 also has good metals, but it's really hard to find P3 paints around here. I don't know why.
You're going to get the paint associated with the game that's played in your area. Because Reaper sells their stuff with basically any RPG shop. Games Workshop's paints are probably the most common available, because that's going to be where you buy your Warhammer. And
I've also heard that's because of trade agreements. In order for stores to stock GW stuff, they have to have a prominent display area, and it can't be near anything that could be mistaken for GW product, which, for better or for worse, War Machine and Hordes can be. And so at least at one of my friendly local gaming stores, he's like, yeah, that's the reason we don't stock P3, is because we don't have a place to put it that's far enough away from the GW stuff. I'm like, that's a shame.
That's very sad.
that
It
is very
is, 'cause
sad.
I want to try out their paints. I mean, there's not really a huge crowd of War Machine players in the Boston area, at least not that I'm familiar with. There's at least a handful I know that I've seen. It's just not as large a community as 40K, or even Age of Sigmar for that matter.
For us, it's the opposite. War Machine and Horde ate everything. It's kind of died now, and nothing's being played. But for a while there, War Machines and Hordes was like eating everything.
Oh my gosh, 8th edition. You should try 8th edition. It's so streamlined. Sorry, that's 8th edition 40K.
Yeah, because Hordes is on 3rd edition now.
They're M3, Mark III. So yes, I think. I don't know much about it except that you can pre-measure now, and that's the extent of my knowledge of that game.
Man, pre-measuring is going to ruin that. Well, no. There was always a cheat for pre-measuring in Warhammer Hordes, where you would just say, "I'm measuring my command range from your commander," which means you could measure any distance from your commander. So all you would have to do was, okay, so I see that I'm my commander is 13 inches from my model that I care about being 6 inches from this model. So, oh, look, okay.
Yeah,
18 inches. That's great, right?
That's kind of my gripe about games that explicitly say that you're not allowed to measure anything at any time. It's that it is a it is a restriction to the advantage of the veterans at the expense of the newbies. Because veteran gamers will figure out those ways to measure without it being illegal, and rookies will just be stuck trying to eyeball everything until they learn those cheats.
Mm-hmm. Well, thankfully, our veterans taught that right away to all newbies. It's like, you can't measure, but hey, wouldn't you like to know if your commander is within 30 inches of that thing?
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I love, like, eyeballing games. Mordheim, for example, is a warband sort of skirmish size game set in the old world, in Warhammer's old world, and that's a game that doesn't allow pre-measuring. You have to guess all of your ranges, and like your crossbow is range 24 inches, and if your target is outside of that, if your target is like 25 inches away when you declare your shot, it automatically misses because you're out of range. And I love those games. Those games are a lot of fun. They're just really, really hard to get into because you have to learn to eyeball that distance. So I think just from a game design standpoint, just as far as tabletop miniature games go, I think being able to measure, it makes it easier to play. And that's, if you can't play a game effectively, then you're not having fun. And that sort of defeats the purpose of having a game in the first place.
I have Ryan will argue with me on this concept a lot on a lot of things on the show. You guys will hear that happen. I almost always defer into what's going to make this more fun. Well, then I don't care about what the correct ruling or proper fair thing to do is. Is this going to make things more fun for our players? Because ultimately, my currency is the hours I spend with them and their willingness to come back to my table. So if that means that I didn't run the game right, or I miseducated a rule, or I very quickly hurriedly on to something, as long as we had fun, that's all that matters.
Oh man, I can see that bugging with Ryan. Ryan is lawful Judge Dredd when it comes to a lot of rules.
That is the source of a lot of arguments. Okay, there we go. This is an example of a perfect 15-minute mini. He's not done yet, but what I've done is he's primed black. He's a lizard man. Dry brush green is the first thing that happened. Nice thick dry brushing, of course, but nice thick green stuff. The shadow's still showing through because of the black paint. Now I'm going to go through here and pick out like the brown on the chest pieces and the eyes and the teeth, and I'm going to paint the spear up and get this bag. And a lot of things like that need to be done now, but a lot of the majority of this mini got done with like 5 seconds of dry brushing.
I really enjoy miniatures with like textured skin, like fur or scales, because it's so easy to dry brush. You can just hit that, as you say, in like 10 to 15 seconds of good dry brushing, and then you can build up layers that way, and it looks really, really good at the end. And you spent I spent all of a minute and a half on this thing. Harder to do that with some minis than others, but for like lizardmen, for wolves.
If you want to brighten up a color, yellow is a great choice to bring up a brightness. Sorry, that's
but painting yellow on its own is a pain in the tuchus.
But I wanted this brown to be a lot brighter.
You guys are so much better at me about keeping the language rated G. It's not even funny. Maybe if I try and practice really hard, I can be the next person with a cheeky language banner.
Alex, don't you work with kids?
Yeah, that's why I have to let it out when I get home. If there are any other teachers who are listening, I'm sure they'll agree with me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just use your classroom. Just be Classroom Alex.
No, I'm not Classroom Alex. Classroom Alex worked today. Classroom Alex is on the couch with his shoes off.
Classroom Alex has a duration of 8 hours.
Yeah, basically. The 8 hours. Podcast Alex?
Podcast Alex needs to keep PG.
Podcast Alex does okay.
Podcast Alex strays into PG-13 occasionally, and it's hilarious.
It's great. I love it.
Crap, I found that I'm just using this really cheap freaking Walmart brush for my base coating. What the heck am I doing? It's working, so
You're-
I'm not going to stop, but...
Yeah, if it, it's a tool. If it works, use it.
So
Or like when people say that airbrushing is cheating. It's a tool. If it works, use it.
no such thing as cheating. I mean,
Only
fudging your
cheaters
dice
say
in a
that.
game of 40k might be cheating, but putting a decent color palette on your freaking Soren Mini, not cheating.
Oh, I wanted to show you guys. My company's new mini came in today.
Your companies.
Yeah, my Everyman Gaming.
I
My
know.
company's new mini.
I was giving you an excuse to say that.
Oh, look at this. I don't know if you can see it really good on my camera.
Oh, is that a kitsune with a katana?
It is. It's also
Very
our
nice.
first female mini in the line. I'm really excited.
A female kitsune. I bet those are even rarer than male kitsune.
So they're not. Male kitsune are rarer in miniature form. She's rare because she has clothes on.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's really unfortunate.
Oh.
It's unfortunate that she's rare, or it's unfortunate that she has clothes on, Chris.
It's unfortunate that she's rare, and it's unfortunate that's why she's rare.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. It's very strange. But, I mean, I guess they know their market. I don't know.
That brown I mixed with my green, I'm going to just use the pure brown part. That's why I mixed the colors side by side. And I'm going to paint the spear.
For the record, I don't have a problem with scantily clad miniatures of either of any gender. I do have a problem with scantily clad miniatures at the expense of fully clad miniatures. I want there to be a range of all sorts so that I can, pick it, so that anyone can pick and choose the miniatures that they want to represent their characters, their armies, or whatever have you. I just don't like it when it's exclusively like scantily clad miniatures because they supposedly sell better. That's my issue.
I think that is acceptable. I use my lemon grab voice, but I'm pretty sure nobody would get it except Perram.
Okay. Now I've got to get some gray from some gray dry brushing to get the spear tip and his base. And crap, I should have. Okay, I need to get his chest too, so I'm going to use some dirty bone. So I'm going to pick out his chest with this, and I'm going to pick out his fins with this. And I'm painting with this pure, not diluted, so that's probably bad.
2 thin coats.
2?
2 thin coats. There's a GW painting tutorial guy named Duncan Rhodes, and his catchphrase has always been two thin coats. It's how you prevent clumping and don't obscure detail, and it takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically the right way to do it.
It's what I do on my Gundams.
It's just painstakingly slow.
Yeah.
You guys are so disappointed. You know the secret to happiness, but don't want to do it because it's time consuming.
It's true.
Listen, I can
Imagine
be
if I
purely
did one thick coat.
I could be purely supremely happy with one lizard man, or I could have 7 lizard men that I'm just kind of cool with.
So clearly you don't care about the lizardmen enough to want a supreme lizardman.
No.
It's true. That's absolutely the case.
I mean, so according to the Emperor, one Space Marine is worth like what 100 ordinary troops, but like one Space Marine painted isn't worth 100 Space Marines painted.
Right.
Actually, if you read Master of Mankind,
No,
you'll learn
I'm not.
that the Emperor cares not for his Space Marine legions, not even a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't like Games Workshop. I'm not a fan
You're
of their
not
games.
alone.
I you know what? Like I'm sure Like, I don't know. Like, I was starting to get okay with them when they finally added the Sisters of Battle to my army. That was pretty cool. But, eh.
They've, as far as companies and public relations go, and sort of refreshing an image, they've come a long way, even from when I started playing, which was only 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, 3 or 4 years ago, they had the audacity to release a 75 freaking dollar rule book with 4 pages of rules in it.
Oh, and then 2 years they did it again. 2 years later, they did it again. Yeah.
That's
GW of the 2010s was not a good company. They've come a long way since then. They're a lot more transparent with what they do, and they actually manage their social outreach a lot better. They're doing the Paizo thing, where they listen to what people want and they give it to them.
Well, I mean,
it's a good way to make money.
I saw their stock values a few years ago. I can kind of guess why they might have had.
Yeah, they switched CEOs and they have a new game plan now.
Good.
Which is, judging by the hype they've been generating for 8th edition, is...
Well, their old CEO said that if they were pricing people that couldn't afford to play out of the market, good.
Yeah. I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. And not many other people did either, so I'm glad of the change.
Okay, now time to get this spear done. And then I'm going to do his rock base a bit more too. Okay. Cheater! Cheating! Lots of cheating!
By the way, Perram, if you ever want to chat about airbrushes, I can steer you in a direction. I don't know if it's going to be the right direction, but I can steer you in a direction.
So, Perram, you never told me which gunpla did you get?
I'm starting off with the HG Barbados.
Ah, Barbados!
Very classic.
He's only He's only 2 years old. How's he classic? Well, I know he's super popular though.
I love Iron-Blooded Orphans. They're the best.
It really is a great show, but man, it's painful to watch. Let's not spoil it, but man, it's painful to watch.
But that's what makes it so good.
Man. Y'all make me feel like I'm so out of the loop. The last Gundam show that I watched was Gundam Wing.
Hey, nothing wrong with Wing.
I mean, it was really enjoyable. I tried to watch it again recently because it was it was on Netflix or it was on Hulu or something like that. It was on somewhere. I was trying to watch it again, and I just couldn't. It was too much hero, not enough anything else.
That is not a problem in Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Hero.
You should give Iron-Blooded Orphans a try. I never thought I would have liked a Gundam series until James showed me Iron-Blooded Orphans, and I laughed, I cried. It was a lot more of one than the other.
Yeah, it was a lot more of the crying.
It's subbed though, right?
The first season has gotten a dub. The second season's only sub right now.
So
James and I watched it subbed. I think it personally, like, having watched it subbed in like the language and like the voice and like the passion that goes into it, I don't think the dub cuts it. I've seen a couple really important scenes get botched by a bunch of different American actors. You should watch it subbed, even though it takes a lot more energy and commitment.
So when I watch anime, I typically enjoy watching subbed more than dubbed for that exact reason. But most of my time now is painting, and so now it's really hard to read a television show while you're trying to focus on your miniatures.
I absolutely agree. It was really, really, really hard for me to find the time to watch a lot of these anime that James and I have been watching over the past couple months. But I worked it into my schedule, and now we watch pretty regularly. We watched both seasons of Iron-Blooded Orphans. We watched Parasite. We watched Angel Beats.
Angel beats
we're-
after I beat. Man, he's trying to ruin you emotionally.
Oh, he is. It's great. My heart is broken. But then we watched Kill la Kill, and Kill la Kill was
Okay.
amazing.
Oh my god, Kill la Kill's so just gratuitously everything.
It's
I mean,
so
in a good way. It's just be prepared if you're not familiar with Kill la Kill. Just be prepared that it's the meta anime.
Oh,
Now-
Kill la Kill is so good.
Okay, so here is the finished 15-minute Lizard Man.
Ooh, lizard.
I'm letting Alex and Anthony. In order to guys give you guys a great good shot of the minis, they can't. I'm using 2 cameras.
It occurs to me that my miniature currently looks like Bilbo Baggins.
Oh, great!
Like, I accidentally painted it so it looks like a hobbit. Look at that.
Oh,
It's kind of great. You'll be my Bilbo Baggins Kitsune. It'll be wonderful.
Blue Tack is wanting to stick to the base of this guy. Get it off there. There we go. Okay, that's 2 done. Who's next?
So, of them, and what we're watching right now, we're watching Mariah Nikki.
Mhm.
So James likes Mariah Nikki way more than I do. This is the first anime that I've seen with him where, like, I didn't get really, like, I mean, I liked Angel Beats, but I didn't get super into that. But, like, Mariah Nikki is the first one where I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, I'm watching it and it's enjoyable, but it's not like enjoyable the way that some of the other ones were. But then, like, we just watched this episode where it exploded and it got really cool all of a sudden. It's like, oh man, you were just waiting. You were waiting, weren't you, Mariah Nikki?
Now here is a much more complicated mini that I'm going to be tackling here. This is a dude in armor, which you would normally think is great, but when you start to take a good look at him, you see that he's wearing a tabard over top of his armor. So that means that that's going to be having to do some cloth work on that, which means I'm going to have to do 3-step highlighting on the cloth, because cloth looks really great with 3-step highlighting. The armor is going to need a lot of nice metallic paints on top of that. But actually, there's a lot less armor visible than the barding. The shield is a heraldic shield, so I need to decide if I'm going to try to free paint on that or not. This is not a mini that would be a good candidate for 15-minute mini.
But you're gonna do it anyway.
Sure.
Wait, do you have water transfers? Because those are really easy, especially if it's like a flat shield.
It's a super flat shield. It'd be perfect for water transfers. No, the only water transfers I have right now would be some Iron-Blooded Orphans water transfers.
Yeah, I think
That would look really
those are a bit too
weird to have
valuable.
Tekadon on it.
So, really quick, have you guys seen One Punch Man?
No.
I've seen some of it, but I haven't watched much.
I think One Punch Man is probably my favorite anime to come out in the last several years.
I can believe you liking One Punch Man. It's very like ironic. I think that's a good way.
Much like Kill la Kill, it is it's almost self-aware of the genre that it's in, and it works to make it even more absurd.
That's sort of been like a theme with anime lately. There's My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, Kill la Kill, and then Madoka Magica, these meta animes that are making fun of their own genres.
Yeah, I mean, of those, I've only seen Kill la Kill and One Punch Man, and I think One Punch Man, at least the animation style and the writing does it for me. One Punch Man does it better for me.
So the thing with Kill la Kill is Kill la Kill's like situations and themes are very subversive, but the characters themselves and the story is still very serious. Like, from what I've seen of One Punch Man, there's nothing about that anime that is serious. There's absolutely nothing.
It spends the first half of the first season basically building the world in a really, really stupid way. Because it's all through the eyes of Saitama, the main character. So you basically follow him around, and just everything's absurd to him, and everything that happens to him is absurd. But then once it starts to introduce more of the supporting characters, you can see like that the world that they live in is absolutely terrible, and to be the average citizen in that world is just it's like a death sentence. And it becomes
so it's Game of Thrones.
Almost. It becomes it's. Are you familiar with the Judge Dredd setting, like the megacities?
Not only as much as the bad movie and the good movie.
So the world is basically a megacity, and it's constantly beset by like city destroying abominations, and the only protection is a league of heroes. And that's basically the setting. And the more they introduce characters, the more they establish details of this of the world, it becomes a very diverse, sort of nuanced world, but it's still all through the eyes of the main character, who's like, for better or worse, a simpleton. And so it's like through that lens in which you see things, which makes things absurd by default, because he doesn't understand he does understand it. He just doesn't particularly care about, global politics. He's just like, well, this is a problem and I can solve it, and so why don't we just solve the thing? It's really enjoyable.
I was a big fan of the Cyborg.
Yeah, he's great.
Because he shows up and he's like all super serious and like goes and he fights him really, really hard, and like all this dramatic music is playing, and then he kills the guy, and then Saitama is like, do you need help? And he's like, no, let me die. He's like, you're kind of endearing and I should save you. One punch! Just for everything. It's great. That's like the first 5 episodes in a nutshell, actually. Sorry guys, spoilers.
His special move is consecutive normal punches. It's great. I also think that it has an amazing intro soundtrack.
Oh, it's great. The intro is incredible. Like, that opening music is wonderful. Like, it's impossible. Like, it's like the intro to the first season of Attack on Titan. It's impossible to listen to it and not get hype.
It's true. That's an excellent.
Okay, gang. I put the metal coat down, which was surprisingly little for a dude in full plate, because so much of this is his tabard. So, what color should his tabard be? Any suggestions?
Perram, keeping us on track with painting.
Yeah. Let's not dissolve this into an anime podcast.
I mean, we could.
Let's see.
Oh, Bard Wannabe
Bard Wannabe is asking, what are water transfers? Decals or decals, depending on what country you're in. They're little plastic details. They're printed on a sheet of laminate. They're part colored and part transparent, and they're printed on a sheet of laminate, and you cut them out. And actually, I can show you because they're right near me. I have these for my Space Marines. So these come with most GW kits, and let's see if I can get the camera to focus on it. That's close enough, right?
That looks pretty good.
So you got some little weird symbols that would be a pain in the butt to paint. So what you would do is you cut out like whatever symbol that you want, and then you let it soak in water for about 30 seconds to a minute. And then very carefully you can like slide the transfer onto a miniature and sort of dry it out and paint over it with a clear varnish or something. And voila, you have a nice detail on your mini that you didn't have to freehand. They work really well on flat surfaces like shields. They work a little bit less well on curved surfaces. But yeah, they're really nice, and a lot of companies make them for a bunch of different games. And there's at least a couple of third-party companies out there that make them that do custom orders. So if you want like a like your character's heraldic symbol, you can order it, which is kind of neat.
Okay.
That is pretty sweet.
Purple wins.
I like purple.
Purple. So how are your Space Marines coming along, Anthony?
I've done the thing where I watered down my paint too much, and now it's flowing into details that I don't want it to go into. Right now I'm painting the weapon casing on these guys, so it's just something to paint on the gun to offset the silver and blues around. So it makes the details pop a little bit more, and afterwards I'm going to highlight that casing. It's just an excuse to get a complementary color, or in this case a contrasting color, onto the model. But everyone has their medals, everyone has their leather holsters and such on their belts. Now everyone's going to get a gun casing.
Gunpla!
And after that, I think it's time to start washing things.
Where are my washes at right now? I might have to make a wash instead of using my pre-mates.
I've got a wash.
Oh, sweet.
Perram's like, I knew I invited him for some reason. So, Anthony, are you playing any APs right now?
I am looking to start the Starfinder one once it comes out, but I don't have any current APs at the moment.
That's Perram and I were talking about our various games earlier, so I was curious.
I actually haven't played Pathfinder in months and months and months.
Oh God, everybody, you've heard it here. We've got to kick Anthony off of the network. He hasn't played Pathfinder. No.
This happens. People have dead periods.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Turns out running a club dedicated to a war game takes a lot of free time, on top of, the whole having a job so I can eat thing.
Eating is overrated. No, it's not. Eating is wonderful. I can't even lie about that.
Yeah. Eating is one of the things that is best in life.
I mean, evolutionarily, we're kind of conditioned for eating to be one of the best things in life.
it
right up
seems
there
it's
with-
really useful for survival.
No way. Perram, what is this heresy? I'm gonna have to call the Emperor on you.
Man, this purple paint's ruined. It's coming out like water.
This is a great thing, all of our listeners, to remember that no matter how good you are at painting, you're gonna mess up, and mess up spectacularly.
Yeah, sometimes your paint just doesn't cooperate.
Sometimes you make a big mistake and everything goes horrible, and you have to spend 4 days with simple green trying to fix it. That was me.
Get a
See?
Sonicator.
There we go. See this big goop of hard gut muck here? That's why this paint's not working. So this paint's trash.
If you get a Sonicator, you can cut that 3 days into half an hour.
What?
Yeah.
What
Get a
is
Sonic
this?
Cleaner.
This eldritch magic you're speaking of?
It's called a Sonic Cleaner. It's basically a bucket that's hooked up to a small thing that does micro vibrations. It's usually used for cleaning jewelry. But
Do I need to have like ear-piercing scream as a spell-like ability in order to meet the correct construction requirements of that?
not really. It's carried by some Harbor Freight is a store that carries it. You can shop for it online. It's like $45 maybe, and you can use it to clean like your minis. You can use it to clean jewelry. You can use it to clean like any sort of tool that you have around the house if it's like all gunked up. I use it to clean my airbrushes mostly, just because I can't get inside the little casing even if I unscrew it. But it works really well with stripping. You just pour some simple grain into it and set it for half an hour, and then you're done. Comes right off.
Sounds like a gosh send.
It is. Turns
My
out
lap-
everything about painting miniatures is all about finding the shortcuts. Because otherwise, we'll be here forever.
But I want to be here forever.
Well, that's your prerogative. You're welcome to be here forever.
You're welcome to be here for the next 45 minutes, and then the show ends.
That's true. That goes
How
for
many?
everyone.
45 minutes. Or half an hour now.
We're doing it, guys. I should focus a little harder then.
All my paints are clogged up.
Oh gosh. Perram, but you have a secret weapon to unclog those paints.
Yeah, this push pan.
Yeah.
Oh. I was going to say that you have a handy dandy assistant.
Well, there's using the assistant, and then there's abusing the assistant.
Well, what did he sign up for?
He thought he was going to come down here and have all kinds of awesome fun with Pathfinder.
The answer is he signed up for nothing and will regret it.
Well, I hope people signed up for Gen Con stuff, man. Have you noticed how hard it is to get into Pathfinder games?
Yes.
It's almost like it's super popular. Are they offering Starfinder trials at like not trials but like previews at No wait, it's coming out at Gen
It
Con.
comes out at Gen Con, so yes, there will be previews of Starfinder there.
Wait, also I know this answer. I was in the Boston Venture. Never mind. I forgot I was in that meeting.
Wow, that
We had a
turned out terrible.
Boston Ventures officer meeting that I was a part of and forgot. Yeah, wonderful.
Oh man, Anthony. What are we going to do? You're just forgetting everything.
True. I will say that Starfinder sounds really, really exciting. And I think Paizo has some great plans for it.
Redacted.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate how you added to
I
that. Certainly adding to the excitement, to say the least.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it there. I don't want anybody to lose any contracts. I don't want any of our private contacts to not talk with us.
Perram, no, stop. You're hurting me. Wow, you know what I can talk about? Let's talk about other things, like Pathfinder products that have just come out recently.
Pathfinder products came out recently?
Yeah.
Okay, what ones?
I don't know. I really liked Legacy of the Fae. Have you guys seen that one?
I haven't read it yet, but it's sitting here.
It's really good.
What's really good about it, Alex?
So it's split up in a way I don't normally like in player companions, but this player companion does it really well. It's divided into creatures. So like the Galthians have a spread and gnomes have a spread, but then each of the eldest also has a spread. And it actually works and is super cool.
You heard it here first. Works and super cool.
Yes. There's also some really neat stuff in there. There's a wizard that focuses on time-changing magic.
Ooh.
It's called, ready, you're going to love it, the Chronomancer.
Oh.
If he doesn't get time stop at level 1, I hate it.
Then you hate it.
I want time stop as a free action. Unlimited use per day.
Then you hate it.
Then I hate it.
Okay, I couldn't get any of the purple to work, so he turned out dark blue.
Good enough.
Dark blue.
Good enough for government work.
Somebody's getting beat up.
I think my wife stubbed her toe. No, this was the wrong color. How did this happen? Oh dear.
That's not going to work. I need darker brown than that.
It's Alex's only rule of painting. No matter how good you are, you're gonna roll a natural one sooner or later.
It's true. Especially when you mix your paints and put them into the wrong bottle.
Wow. I don't know what's up with my paints, but all my paints are... I think it's time these get thrown out.
sad day when paints go by the wayside.
I used these not too long ago, and they were fine. I guess everything's fine until it isn't.
It's true. That's Alex's number 2 rule of painting. Someone says, I can't see what's going on in the top right stream at all. Who is that? Is that
Where's
Anthony?
the top right stream? That's
You're the
probably
top
me.
right screen, Anthony.
You aren't. Look at those hands.
It's true. I'm waiting for the other stream to catch up. Oh, that's so weird. Is it like... Oh, there it is. Wow, what a delay.
Yeah, there's a big delay between stream.
So when this person said that, it was probably because I was dealing with my palette.
And since I got this paladin dude, he's gonna be ginger, because why not? You don't have very many ginger minis.
It just goes to show you that anybody can be a paladin.
Is that better? That's probably better.
That's much better.
Look, you
Now-
can actually see my hands. I wish
know.
someone would have told me this when there was, like, when there wasn't just half an hour to go in the stream.
I mean, I guess I thought you just wanted to show off your army.
Yeah. It's not much to look at until it's painted. That's the whole point of this, right?
Hey, that's rule number 3 of Alex's painting. Nothing you do is worth looking at until it's done.
That's absolutely true. In my
Seriously,
opinion,
don't
yes.
show your client, if you're doing any sort of freelance or artistic work, don't show your client anything until you're finished with it. But you
Yup.
can see the perfect vision of what it's going to be. All they see is every single mistake on the page.
That's true for about 90% of freelancing. The only exception is when you're doing something like writing, where, like, your person probably wants to know what you're writing before you hand it over to them, especially if you're waiting until deadline. It just got really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of pen?
Yeah, I know. You have to show rough drafts, Jacob. You must show rough drafts. Absolutely, you must show rough drafts.
Everybody does that.
It depends on the client, I think, and sort of what you establish as expected ahead of time. Like when I do painting commissions, I usually try to send my client a couple of work in progress shots to make sure that he or she likes the direction that we're going in, and they approve of their color choice once they actually see it on a miniature. Like this guy. This guy kind of looks like a Christmas tree to me. And you know what? That's because it's green and red and a little bit Christmassy. But you know what? That's what he wanted, so that's what he got. And he approved it every step of the way through. So, not what I would have chosen, but he's happy with it.
What would you have chosen, Anthony?
Probably sky blue with white highlights on the flamey ridges. I would have done this gemstones green in that case. Probably still would have kept the black and gold armor.
Quick Shade. Claude Kenlaw says, have any of you guys used Quick Shade? Is that like inks?
Quick Shade is this bottle of... Basically, it's wood stain. And thinned down wood stain. They sell it. They don't tell you that on the bottle. And what you do with it is you paint your mini up like you do. You put your highlights on that, but instead of washing it, you dunk this stuff down into that wood stain, and you shake the crap out of your mini, and then it's done. And it also is a protective coat in one. It's two things in one. Because basically you just dipped your mini in wood shade. It works great. I've done it for a few minis. You got to be really careful after you handle it, because it could eat into the paint that you put down there. So immediately after you use the wood shade, or the quick shade, you need to stop touching your mini for the day.
Yeah, you have to let it cure effectively.
Yeah, because it will not just mess up the shade job; it'll actually rip paint off that you've already put down. I've lost a mini to that before.
It's really good if you're painting like hordes of little critters. I think, from what I can remember and having been told, it was used for like Tyranids, which are a massive horde bug like army. You just like put on your base coats and then dip it and flick. It's super messy because you gotta flick the stuff off. So you need to like throw down a drop cloth and make sure that the area you're using it in is like outside.
Yeah, I do it outside on the grass.
Your poor lawn.
So, like, can you guys see that? Does it look okay? No, I don't mean like the mini, like the
Pull back.
picture.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so I'm using Citadel Wash right now. I have a really, really old school one called Delvin Mud, and
I love Delvin Mud.
Delvin Mud is so great because it has all of the great shade-inducing powers of black, without being like, oh my gosh, now everything is like in deeper darkness. So I'm gonna do that one with that, and I'll show you the difference as soon as I'm done.
That is a super old wash. They discontinued that.
Yeah, they call it something else now. It's in a completely different bottle.
Is it like brownish or is it black?
Yeah,
It's like
brown.
a sepia.
Agrax Earthshade. I'm willing to bet.
Is that what they call it now?
That's the sepia wash that I use.
It's probably because I mean, like, they did a rebranding of all their paints like right before I stopped playing Warhammer, and they changed all the names. That was actually one of the things that frustrated me enough to make me stop playing Warhammer. That all of a sudden, like, any of the names that I tried to use with people were wrong. It was like, no, you've taken my literacy that took me 2 years to learn in this game, and you've gotten rid of it.
Oh, one thing that we should note if you're looking to embark on painting as a hobby or a pastime is that if you like a particular formula as you're mixing paints, as you've seen Perram is comfortable enough mixing his own paints on the fly. But if you find that, like, oh yeah, this blue and this green mixed really well together, or this gray and this blue made a really nice sort of like highlight or whatever, write that down. Write down how much of what paint that you used and how you mixed it, and how much water you added. Like, make a book or a sheet of formulas, because that will save you a lot of time and effort later on as you try to recall what it is you did for that particular mini that made it look so good.
That sounds like you've had many problems doing something great and forgetting it.
Yeah, so I did the thing. So these are Ultramarines. They are a particular faction within the 40k universe, and Games Workshop supports the Ultramarines in that they have a whole set of custom paints for them. I chose not to use those paints when I first started painting my army. This color, this shade of blue, is of my own making, and originally I didn't write down how I did it, and it was a real pain to try to figure out that when I started adding things to my army. So now I just have this enormous bottle of pre-mixed paint that says right on the side how I made it. So when I go to make it again, I know exactly what I did.
Okay, now I'm doing something. I'm about to paint eyes.
Steady hand mode.
Steady hand mode is true. Okay, a lot of people make a couple of mistakes when painting eyes. Okay. First is you put dots. I try to make your eyes circular. Don't do that. What you should
Eyes
do
aren't circle, friends.
is draw a straight up and down line. Okay, I'm trying to see where his eye is. It's right here. Okay. Secondly, look at that. That wasn't good. That's a nice big mess. I always do a nice big mess because the way I do eyes is I cheat. As I've got this nice big blotch there of eye. Now I'm going to come back with my flesh tone and cover that
Paint the face.
and paint the face around the eye again.
Yep.
Where I don't want
It's,
I just paint right back over it. And
it's
now,
so much easier to do what Perram's describing than to actually paint the eye after you finish the face.
And now my guy who had no personality has a little bit of personality.
He's gone from being a robot to Jerry and Rick and Morty.
Oh, the other quick and dirty cheat that I enjoy to give that I usually use to give people with faces personality is eyebrows.
Yep, eyebrows.
Eyebrows are one of the most expressive parts of a face. Or at least that's what we as humans have come to recognize as the expressive parts of a face. And you can do a lot with just a simple couple of lines on someone's face to give them a whole lot of personality.
And I paint eyebrows the same way I paint eyes. I put down an approximate eyebrow, and then I come back with the flesh tone and sculpt the eyebrow back. And that turned out really terrible this time because my flesh tone is leaking.
Ew.
Ew. This is where you learn that your thumb is a painting tool.
Leaky flesh tone.
This flesh tone is kind of watery. I think I need to shake and reapply.
So the other neat thing about thinning your paints and using multiple thin coats is that if you screw up, you haven't used too much paint and you haven't killed the detail on your model, so you can just go over it again and try again.
Where's that pin?
Hmm?
The pin.
So I will say that the one thing I hate about assembly line painting is the fact that I feel like I'm not making any progress until they're all done. Just every tiny little detail is only an incremental step towards completion. Whereas like Perram's painted like 3 whole minis since we started, and I'm not even close.
Oh, heck. I really goofed on this guy. He's going to need some triage.
I can't hear that word without thinking of that old school World of Warcraft quest where you couldn't learn like level 100 or whatever first aid without like running around and healing like a bunch of people in Arathi Basin before they died.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember? It was the worst.
You know, you said really old school Warcraft quest, and I immediately jumped to orcs and humans. Not WoW.
I'm sorry. It's not my fault that you're apparently a dinosaur.
I played Warcraft before there was multiplayers.
There was always multiplayer.
Not in orcs and humans.
Yep, you can multiplayer via telnetting.
Orcs and humans predated BattleNet, though.
Yep, yeah. You had to directly type in the telnet address of your opponent computer or their phone number.
Yikes. That was beyond me. I don't even think I had the internet.
You didn't need to if you used their phone number. Yeah, I have played.
I don't even think I had a network.
I have played many a game by calling somebody.
Chris, were you one of the people who played on the internet on the phone lines?
Man.
That's you, Chris.
What?
Did you play with people on the telephone?
That was me. Lots of Doom.
My connectivity started with the joy that was AOL Online.
That was dial-up.
Yeah, I was still using dial-up all the way until through like the first months on WoW. I was still using dial-up internet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God.
I assume you had
Perram.
at least multiple lines. Like, please tell me you had more than one phone line.
Yeah, we had multiple phone lines. One just for the internet, one for everything else. And man,
The worst thing.
this dude's just ruined. I'm giving up on him though. He needs to dry before he can be reclaimed.
Sometimes that happens. You know what, though? Warcraft 2 had an excellent soundtrack. I think that's what I miss the most about that game.
Yeah, well.
I've really been enjoying Legion.
I liked it until I didn't.
What brought about the change?
The endless grind.
I mean, is that not everything about an MMO?
No. Usually there's an end to the grind, an end goal to get to, or a point in which you've ground enough that week. Not so with Legion.
Ah, so instead of making the so their solution is to remove the off ramp.
Right. So basically, because how the way artifact power works, he ended up with a beard.
I thought you said you'd stop fixing him.
I did until he ended up with a beard. Now he's Beardy McPaladin.
Holy McBeardenson.
Mm-hmm. Whatever, it worked. I got him saved. Whoa. I don't know if I want to pick up another one. I only have 15 minutes, which is enough to do one more, but I wouldn't be able to talk very much.
You can salvage his face.
I don't think you want me to try. My paints are really screwed. That's not bad. That's not too bad. Just put some eyebrows on it and you'll be fine.
I've been trying for the last half an hour.
Oh.
Do you guys use paint thinner other than water?
No. I tried to use some flow enhancer, and that stuff just really screws with my style.
You might be able to save those paints if you had with some paint thinner. Not flow enhancer, but let me see if we can find a bottle of it. Since I reorganized, I'm not really sure where all my stuff is anymore.
I'm really mad at these paints anyway, so I'm okay getting rid of them.
This is Vallejo Thinner Medium, and it's basically it's polymer and water. So it has the same consistency as paint. It just doesn't have any pigment. So that might help. I'm not sure if it will, but it's an option. So when I do intentionally thin down metallics, it's with this, so that it keeps the same properties, but it actually becomes thinner without bubbling up.
All right. So since we're in wind down mode, let's see what's been accomplished today. Chris has got the pink gnome, or halfling, gnomeling,
Halfling.
halfling.
Half gnome.
This looks pretty good.
Very nice.
Very bright, very cheerful. All right. I have Beardy McPaladin, who is definitely a playable table mini, but I wish the face didn't get ruined. That was because I was not using my paint properly. And that's what happens when you don't use your paint properly. You get mistakes.
It will betray you.
Yeah. This is my first 15-minute mini. Mercenary dude. I've got a gray and red color scheme with gold accents. And finally, Lizard Man with the lizard Stick.
That's a bone, isn't it?
Yeah, these are all bones.
Oh, nice.
Except for Chris's, which is the new WizKids Unpainted line.
That's right. The HD stuff.
Yep. So actually, oh crap, we don't have 10 minutes. We're 20 minutes over.
Oh.
Because we started half an hour earlier. Okay, so let's see what you've got. Anthony, show off for the group what you've got.
Oh, man. Not really. So, once again, this is... there it is. Once again, this is assembly line painting, so it's not going to look done until they're all done.
Mm-hmm.
But they started bare blue and gold, and all have their silvers, their leather pouches, and most of their bolter casings. I'm going to finish their guns tonight before I go to bed. Afterwards, it'll be all their eyes. So you notice that I've put some white where their lenses are supposed to be. And eventually that's going to get a gemstone paint so that it looks like their eyes are glowing. But yeah, 20 odd Marines takes a little bit while to get to. In the past, it's taken me about 8 hours and change to do 20 or so dudes. So we're 2.5 hours in, and that's where we are.
Okay. And Alex, what do we got from you?
I've got about, I guess, halfway or so done my base coat on these two. I don't know if you guys can see them. It looks kind of dark in my picture.
Mm-hmm.
I have paint on both of them. I'd say maybe another 30 minutes each or so. I normally wouldn't split attention up between two minis like this, but because I'm trying to make sure they look the same, I've been doing the steps similarly. You know, like, oh, I like this on this one. Let's transfer this to the other one.
All right.
I think that's going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, I would rather not have to go back and... So, like, I guess in a way I'm kind of assembly lining like Anthony's, except it's more like, oh, let's do this one area, then let's do that one area. Yeah, it is assembly, actually. So, yeah, I'm basically doing what Anthony is doing.
Right. Excellent. All right. Okay, so how do you want to get us out of this, Alex?
If you want to talk with us more about painting or any other hobby-related things, you can go to our Facebook page, which is nodirection.facebook.com, right?
It's, I don't think so. Yeah, I think it is facebook.com/nodirection.
There you go. That sounds right. That's what you say every week. We would love to hear from you, and we also want to know if, like, do you like us doing painting and hanging out and just talking about stuff? Is this a thing you would like to see more of from us, or was this a drag fest and we should go back to doing like all of our normal things? I'm in talks with getting some people together to do more episodes. Obviously, we're going to bring Perram back for more Private Sanctuary stuff, and I'm going to kidnap James so James can make his podcast debut for the network. So, yeah, there's stuff to look forward to. I think I'm finally at a good point where, like, I've sort of figured out how to do this college thing. So, back for the Private Sanctuary for me, and it'll be great. It'll be so great.
Excellent. All right, so but you can also find us at nodirectionpodcast.com, where you will find all of our great shows, including this one, No Direction, and our much appreciated blog content produced by everybody here. We have new Pathfinder content coming out every single day of the work week. Saturdays and Sundays we take off. So go and check us out at nodirectionpodcast.com. And other than that, check us out on our facebook.com/nodirection, or you can email us at nodirection@hotmail.com to send us emails directly. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, and actually, I think Anthony has a blog post coming up this week soon, don't you, Anthony?
It's tomorrow. I have to finish it.
I guess you're gonna have to put down the paints.
No, that's what Google speech to text is for.
Oh my gosh, you trust that to do any sort of writing in a fantasy genre?
Oh, not at all.
Okay, never mind.
It's just going to have some ridiculous edits that Ryan will have to live with.
Oh, that's great. Oh,
and by
that's
the time
so
he listens to this recording, it'll be too late. So it works out for everyone as far as I'm concerned.
This is live. There's not too late.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Alexander Gunas, the Everyman Gamer.
I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
And I'm Anthony Lee.
All right.
The man behind the. Come on, you got the title.
Oh, the man behind the screen. It's not actually true. I haven't played a Pathfinder game in months. I'm not behind any screens.
The man who used to be behind the screen.
The man formerly known as the man behind the screens.
Oh, actually, before we go, Jacob Blackenman says, Owen asked Ryan Costello at PaizoCon, why don't you have any artists on the shows? I have literally been bugging him to get artists on this show for like a year and a half.
Okay.
Like,
As somebody who's involved in picking our guests and stuff, we would love to have artists on the show. A lot of you all are very hard to get in touch with. A lot of you all live in areas of the world because a lot of the Pathfinder artists are hired from all over the world. Very hard to sync up with on time frames, and also it's hard to do it for our audio listeners to like really let them appreciate your artwork. But we'd love to have you.
Yeah, reach out. Reach out to us at. The easiest would probably still be nodirection at hotmail.com.
Yeah, reach us at nodirection at hotmail.com.
Yeah.
TRL didn't listen. We hear you. We're working on it.
Next week on the No Direction, we are going to be interviewing Ninja. Oh gosh, Ninja Division. Ninja what?
Division.
Ninja Division. Yes, Ninja Division. They're going to be showing off the Starfinder miniatures, and that's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, how apropos that we're painting miniatures now.
Yep. That was not brought into the discussion whatsoever. Absolutely not. Completely coincidental. All right, guys. I'm going to take the stream down. Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Good night, friends.